You need to stop doing that. I'm warning you. Okay, this is your final warning. If you don't stop doing that, I'm going to spank you. Okay, you're getting a spanking. How many times have we heard or seen parents tell their children this, and how many times have we seen them follow through with it? I have never seen a parent follow through with saying, this is your last warning, you're getting a spanking, and they spank. Instead, they get 10 warnings, and it drives me nuts. My name is Michelle Treviso, and today I'm going to encourage you how it is okay and how important it is that we discipline and correct our children, and we should be disciplining them. If that means a spanking, that means a spanking. First, we're going to go back in time and talk about how over the years we have gotten so lenient as parents. Back then, there were no warnings. These days, these kids get about 10 warnings before something is actually done. It is only affecting our child's future when we are not correcting them the first time. My second point, I am going to talk about parental constitutional rights that we have, their rights. We have the right to raise our children and discipline them as we see fit. Finally, my last point is going to be how we need to be our children's parents and not their friend. So first, let's go back in time and talk about how back then you messed up the first time, you got a spanking, you got a whooping. I know I did as a kid. If I messed up, there were consequences the first time. I got no warnings. And as an adult, you don't get any warnings. According to goodparenting.org, a spanking, a swat on the bottom, is a good form of discipline. It is effective. Goodparenting.com or .org also, they conducted some trials, and they tested 3 oppositional children, and they found that the most effective form of disciplining was 2 SWAT spankings on their bottom. Children will take you more seriously if you enforce corporal punishment. If you keep saying, I'm warning you, I'm going to spank you if you don't stop this, I'm warning you, then they're going to keep messing up, and they're not going to take you seriously because they know they'll get warnings. According to Dr. Tennant, he found that children who were spanked during their childhood were less likely to abuse drugs as an adult. They were also churchgoers. They were committed to going to church. They grew up to be successful, and they had happy, successful marriages. Those children that were spanked during their childhood. My pastor always says, if you don't discipline your children, the prison guards are going to do it for you. I agree 100%. As an adult, we don't get warnings. If you steal something from the store as an adult, you get arrested. So we need to prepare our children for that future. If we keep warning them, they're going to keep messing up, and they're going to do that during their adulthood. But as a child, if we correct it the first time around and be consistent, like every time they mess up, then they're going to be less likely to mess up in their adulthood. Second, I will talk about our parental constitutional rights that we have to raise our children as we see fit, which can include a swat on the bottom. According to the U.S. Supreme Court, we have the right to discipline our children as we see fit. If that means that timeout works for your child, then enforce it. Be consistent. If that means they need to stick their nose on the wall for 5 minutes and think about what they messed up with, then do it. If that means a swat on the bottom, do it. So just to clarify, I am 100% against child abuse. And child abuse, if you are constantly spanking your child on the bottom and it's leaving bruises, it's leaving marks, scratches, that is child abuse. So a swat on the bottom with your hand is not going to leave a mark. It may sting and be red for a little bit, but that is not child abuse. You as their parent know what type of discipline is most effective for your child. So just enforce it and be consistent. According to the U.S. Supreme Court, the liberty of parents to direct the upbringing, education, and care for their children is a fundamental right. What does that mean? A fundamental right is a right that was voted in court that is considered to be fair. So as a parent, it is only fair that we get to decide for our children what kind of school, what kind of education they're going to get, how we care for them, and their upbringing, their mannerisms, their Discipline. So an example I will use is my husband and I. We have a 5-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son. I can guarantee you that my son will never hit a woman in his adulthood. He's hit my daughter before, and we've swat him on the bottom, and he knows that it's not okay to put his hands on a female, so he will not do that as an adult because we're correcting that now. Also, we make him hold the door open for everyone, whether it's an elder, and especially women, it doesn't matter what age, he has to hold the door open because that's a gentleman. So, I mean, things like that, we as a parent have the right to decide how our children are going to grow up. Finally, we're going to talk about being a parent versus being our child's friend. They don't need a friend to gossip with. They need parents. And parents, they don't discipline their children or get onto them because they are trying to avoid conflicts. They are trying to avoid arguments. No, we need to be strong and not be afraid. According to Lisa Field's 5 Signs of a Pushover Parent, parents are more concerned these days with their children liking them than they are with being the authority figure. And there's something wrong with that picture. I'm going to use my sister and my nephew as an example. She's a single mom, and it's just her and my 3-year-old nephew. She will not spank him, and she's not consistent with getting onto him because she doesn't want to hurt his feelings. She feels bad for him. My 3-year-old nephew tells my sister what to do. He screams at her. He calls her names. And it should be the other way around. She is the parent. He's the child. She needs to tell him what to do, not the other way around. So she doesn't follow through. She is not consistent. And it just shows what kind of child he is. He's a handful. But when he is with my husband and I, and my sister's not around, we get onto him. We don't spank him, but we do get onto him and let him know that's not okay. So he is so good with us. But when my sister's around, he knows he can get away with everything. So he's little terror. So now it is time for my conclusion. First, we went back in time and talked about how parents have gotten so lenient over the past several years. It's only affecting our child's future. We're setting them up for failure if we're not correcting them and disciplining them the first time around. Second, I went over our parental constitutional rights that we have to discipline our children as we see fit. And finally, my last point was that we need to stop being our child's friend and start being their parent. I hope you now see how it is okay and how important it is that we discipline and correct our children the first time they mess up and follow through and be consistent. And if that means giving them a swat on the bottom, then that's what it means. Parenting is one of the most difficult jobs out there. I'm speaking from experience. But don't give up. You are the parent. They are the child. Be strong, consistent, effective, and think about your child's future. So I leave you with this question. What kind of future do you want to have for your child?